The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, coming to you cordless, everybody. It's the giant head from Minneapolis. It's Monday night, April 14th, 2025. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night, episode number 220 for your scorecards at home. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Man, I didn't really watch the Masters. I saw the last hole. I saw the playoff hole. Pretty cool. He finally got his Grand Slam. That's pretty neat, Okay, so what do we got going on here? We got it going on. I keep telling you that. You gotta believe me. Don ZORRO, our friend, intelligence operative and lover of women, is joining us tonight. He's always got a lot to say and interesting ways to say it. Looking forward to talking to him. Tomorrow night, Murray Sabrin, economist extraordinaire. He's basically our resident economist here. He was the professor emeritus at Ramapo College. They named the economics center there after him. He's written about a dozen books. Guys, he knows economics. And why is he coming on the show? Because I want to ask him about the tariffs. I want to ask him what's going on. Now, I have some opinions, and I think I know what's going on. But, you don't want to hear it from me. I'm just some guy in the inner tube. No, you want to hear it from a guy who actually knows this stuff, spent his entire life studying it, and that's Murray. So Murray's coming on tomorrow night. Wednesday, we're taking the night off. Thursday, Jonathan Lockwood. He's a military historian and a space historian too. He's written books on military history and space exploration. He's joining us, and those are two things that are kind of dear to my heart. I love that sort of crap, so I'm hoping you like it too. I haven't actually talked to the guy yet. We've set up this. We set up the interview, so I have, but he seems like a really nice man. And seems like he knows what he's talking about. So that's on Thursday. We're broadcasting in 1080p now. Now, that probably doesn't mean anything to you personally or at all. It's basically full high def. We were at 720 standard high def, but if you got a large television, and I was at Target a couple days ago, you can get like a 60-inch TV for like $250. No, not 50, 15. $215. Just some giant television. I mean, I didn't even look. Is 80 inches now like what, $400? It's unbelievable how cheap this stuff's getting. And I was talking to, who did I have on last week? Was it Jim Conaway? I can't remember. About the fact, we have go through equipment here. It's really funny. Yeah, eggs are getting more and more expensive, and beef is getting more and more expensive. But electronics are getting cheaper. And I think that's because they're made in China. And of course, who knows what the tariffs will do that. And then we'll ask Murray about that tomorrow night too. So also, you can call in tonight. We're taking calls for the second half of the show. If you've never watched this before, we do the show in basically two parts. The first part is an interview. And the second part is I ramble on incoherently. And then you call in and call me on it. And the numbers on the bottom of the screen here, you can see it. Scrolling by 325 call Jim. You can remember that. Now you can call me at that number any time of the day or night. If we're not broadcasting live, when we're not on, or when you call, you will be able to leave a voicemail, and you can do that, and you can entertain me. You got two minutes to do it. That's 325-225-5546, or you can send me a text message at 408-458-5088. But we're not going to open this stuff till the interview's done. First, though, we're going to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be back with Don ZORRO. Stay tuned. Hi, all. Jim Peters again for Conk News. Let me tell you one of the greatest things about Conk News. It's free. It's completely and totally free. You don't need to register. You don't need to log in, subscribe, none of that stuff. Sure, they run a few ads on the front page, but if you're an old fogey like me, you might actually appreciate this because when you check out Conk News at conk.com, you'll probably notice that it's the closest thing to an old-fashioned hard copy newspaper that you'll find online. The latest up-to-the-minute news from 75 high-quality sources collected every 3 hours, all laid out with photos and headlines directly from the articles. And when you click on a story, you go directly to that story. No ad page, no interstitial page, none of that stuff. This is the way online news is meant to be. And did I mention that it's completely free? Seriously, how much of the stuff in America is free now, right? That's of quality anyway. So check this out for yourself. It's at conk.com, CONK.com. Conk News. Joining us from an undisclosed location somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere, which he won't disclose, it's our friend Don ZORRO, intelligence operative and lover of women, as I like to say.
And you say that so incredibly well, too.
That's my job, Don.
7 years of college wasted.
That's right. That's correct. Oh, well.
So you feeling okay? I understand you were a little under the weather.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm feeling fine. It wasn't, the thing is, when I start to get a little sick, I kind of just go into denial, so I spent like a day and a half just fighting it. And
I'm familiar with this disease. It's called pussy's disease.
It is. I know.
Doctor, you take a couple of aspirin, you get over it right away.
I have it. I know. Well, I'm not a workhorse like you, or at least not anymore. I used to be.
I've just gotten into The Sopranos recently, and so I didn't realize that there was this big overgrown character named Pussy.
Oh yeah, Big Pussy, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you know the backstory? How did he get this nickname?
No, actually, I don't.
I swear to God, that is one of the funniest things Hollywood script writers have ever come up with.
Years ago, I worked with a film reviewer who said the first 13 episodes of The Sopranos were the best movie ever made.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. No, interestingly enough, I'm not actually watching the series. I'm just checking out these clips that show up on my feed in various parts of social media, and I gotta say, I think the show is actually a comedy.
That
certainly isn't a drama. This thing is just funny.
Right. Right. Well, on the same token, it's funny you should mention this. I've been doing a lot of reading and watching, believe it or not, of Green Acres.
Oh, sure.
Green Acres was the most surreal damn thing ever on television.
Yes, it was.
It was really a comedy either. It was Dada-esque. I mean, it was
right. It was conceptual. It was along the lines of Bob and Ray, and only people with a certain color hair, and I mean mostly gray now, will even get that reference. But Bob and Ray were two very out there comedians. They were their stuff is. Well, they were coming to prominence around the same time that Jonathan Winters was. And it's that same kind of zany, what the hell did he just say kind of humor, So, yeah, Green Acres.
And
very good.
They bottled it and sold it. I mean, it's really kind of amazing.
Well, look, I mean, you had Ava Gabor. First of all, what's not to like?
Yeah. So,
and then...
Hold it. I got to stop you. Did you know that they did an episode where she actually says her only, in character, she says her only real talent as a Hungarian princess is doing Zsa Zsa Gabor impressions. She actually says that.
Again, you got to give it up for the writers for that.
No, I know you do. You do.
Okay, so while we're on that subject, so for 5 bonus points, what was the other show? There were 2 other shows that Green Acres was related to in a familial kind of way. Do you know what they were?
Petticoat Junction,
right?
Beverly Hillbillies.
Bingo. Good. Yeah. Do you realize you and I are the only 2 guys in the United States that actually know that?
Well, Yeah. Okay. So here's another thing. Both those, well, not the Beverly Hillbillies really, but the other two shows were set in Hooterville, and nobody knows where
Right.
the hell Hooterville was.
Right.
They never
Right.
really put it on a map. It's like, just like some place. It's kind of like where you are right now.
Exactly.
You're in some sort of
quite
dream
right.
world. We don't know where. You're going off shooting people in the weekends. I don't understand what's going on.
No. I don't pull out a gun. It's always with the swords.
Well, you can't talk about it. I know that. So you might be lying. Okay. So, all right, go ahead.
No, last thing is appealing to our generation. So the subject came up of first TV loves, and I said there were two. One was Barbara Eden, but the other one was one that people really don't remember, and that's Julie Newmar.
Oh yeah, Batman.
Yeah. Well, now see, okay, you're one of the few people that know that knows that she was the original Catwoman. Everybody says, "Oh, Eartha Kitt." No, they got Eartha Kitt because of her name. Yeah, just the irony of her name. But Julie Newmar was the first Catwoman, and she died in the second episode.
That's right. Well,
right.
Yeah.
And then when they brought her back, they brought back Eartha Kitt.
I was actually trying to think. They didn't replace her because she passed away, did they?
No. She just went off to do. She probably thought doing Batman was beneath her. She didn't even do the movie, which was hilarious.
Yeah. It kind of that was just a really weird show too. I mean,
yes, it was.
Even Adam West thought it was going to last more than 6 episodes.
Right. It was the first time that I had ever heard of this terminology, camp. I had no idea what it meant, but everybody wrote about it. Everybody wrote about it as camp.
Hold on just a second. I lost it for a second.
Okay.
You
got me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was by myself. Then I wound up on the left, and now I'm back on the right. Thank you.
I like to be on the left. I just like.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm a former liberal. That's the reason.
That's right. No, but this term camp, and then finally later on, when I discovered what a dictionary was, when there was actually a dictionary that understood the term, then I just saw it was kind of just silly conceptual sort of humor that makes fun of itself. So yeah, that kind of fit what Batman was all about. Yeah. But we're not here to discuss my arch rival.
But I will bring this into the present day, and that is 6 women went up into space this morning. I don't know if you saw it. They did actually make it down successfully. Because have you ever thought about this? If that rocket had blown up, holy Christ, all hell would have broke loose. I mean,
among the 5 people that cared back on Earth. No, I when I saw one of the articles about this referred to them as the crew, and I said, no, they are no more crew than I am when I go on a plane flight. Crew my ass. The crew is probably a monkey sitting at the controls, and they have to give him a banana every 5 minutes or something. Good Lord, the crew.
Did you see any of this? Did you see any of it?
I did not. I only saw references to it on the great social media.
Well, I got to tell you about this because this is really hilarious. So when the pictures of the 6 women entering the capsule, 5 of them were ecstatic. Gail King was freaking petrified.
So Gail King that's Oprah's friend, right?
Yeah,
or former friend or whatever?
No, Oprah's
okay.
friend.
So she was scared.
She was scared out of her mind. She was trying to hide it, but it was so plainly obvious. That's right.
I'll have to check this out now.
Yeah. And Oprah showed up to watch. So, they're still buddy.
Of course she did. She's saying, blow up, please.
Now, I got to read this to you. Beige Wellborn, a fantastic writer at Hot Air, wrote this today. She wrote an article about this. And of course, she's a woman, so she can say this stuff. And she said, this is just hilarious. So I don't know if you know this. Lauren Sanchez, Bezos' girlfriend, who was one of the 6, she designed the uniforms.
Of course she did. That's why she looked best in them, right? She and Katy Perry, I guess.
Yeah, Wellborn described the universe as first-rate hoochie.
It was. It absolutely was. This is like the Hootersville, the Hooters.
It all doesn't it?
Yeah. Hooters Goes to Outer Space. It's a new
Right.
movie. Watch it. It's coming out towards you.
Oh my God. It's just
Starring Katy Perry.
yeah. So I don't understand what the deal is with this. Is like the flight isn't even 11 minutes. You know, there's no orbit, nothing. They go up, they're weightless for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then they come back down. It's like,
Well, I mean, look, I mean, it's a thrill ride. It's a Disney ride. That's all it is.
yeah.
However, it's an incredibly dangerous one. I don't
I was
think
gonna
that I
say,
would.
would you do it?
Oh, hell no.
No, I wouldn't either. No.
No. I was around in 1986. I know it can happen.
Oh yeah, that's
So,
right. I know. And those were professionals.
and those are people that knew what they were doing. Yeah,
That's right, and they still
exactly.
lost it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
God.
No, I'd rather watch other people blow up than have my own
Yeah.
body do that.
Oh, I know. That's not going to happen to you. You're not going to blow. You're still really nice and trim. You know, you're not going to.
Thank you. Well, you know, if I don't, the white horse, you know, just gets really pissed off and he bucks me. So I mean, you know, he's just starting to look at me and he goes, "I'm getting a little heavy there, are you, Zorro?" And he bucks
So you're
off.
still riding through the Ponderosa, huh?
Oh God, yeah. So, yeah, pretty much.
So let me ask you now. What do you just well? Now I was going to say 25 words, but no, because I want 1,000. Like, what do you think of this whole tariff thing?
It's like everything else. I mean, I hate to give you a very uncomplicated answer, but it's like everything else. It'll wear its course. People will freak out, and then it'll just kind of settle into the sort of tedium that everything else economic ever does. You know, I was looking at the stock market in chunks. First, I looked at a week, then I looked at a month, then I looked at a year, then I looked at 5 years, and then I looked at the thing over the entire history of it. And it's amazing how the trend continues to be up, and it always will. I didn't lose a dime. Why? Because I didn't take any money out. Now, I have to say, man, I'm kind of sorry that I missed out on some rather fantastic buying opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, I really should have taken some of Zorro's gold and gone in there and just played around a little bit. But, you know, Mrs. Zorro doesn't necessarily like to play that game.
But
so
Don, why do I mean, I'm going to play the naive skeptic here because I am. Why don't people see this? It's like, I don't understand. It's like, how stupid do you have to be not to understand what happens here?
Well, first of all, I think only about 5% of the population actually has any kind of serious understanding about the stock market, what it does, how it works, and how you have to play it. And, you know, okay, I have a friend who was able to retire early because he did day trading back before it was really, you know, a thing, which is another part of the stock market.
I have to ask you, though, how long ago was this that he did
Oh,
this?
no. He retired in the early 2000s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he retired in the early 2000s. And anyway, if you are not somebody who understands or has a concept of how to play the long game in anything in life, then the stock market is not for you. Day trading is not for you. You, like I say, I didn't lose a dime because I didn't sell anything. And look at that. It's already up to like 40,500.
Yeah.
The last time I looked at it, like about a half an hour ago. And then I looked back. I looked back to during the Biden administration. Well, guess where the stock market went to? It went down to 31,000. And look at that. We're still here to talk about it. And that's the way it is. It's gonna go up. Now, you asked specifically about tariffs. Tariffs is the greatest game ever invented for Donald Trump to play, and I don't mind being a kind of ex officio participant in it, just kind of watching the way it plays out. Why? Because I'm not afraid of what's going to happen. Am I in a better situation than most? I wouldn't say better, but I would say I'm probably in the same situation that people are financially in terms of the money that they've put away and all that. You know, it's just like it does not prevent Don Zorro from waking up in the morning and just saying, okay, what's my next mission, my next adventure going to be? The tariff wars will play out in the most predictable possible way. The people that want to play along are doing so already. The people that are going to play along are going to do it soon. The people that want to be recalcitrant, like China and whatever, okay, they'll play their little game of, oh, you horrible imperialist Americans and all that stuff. Meanwhile, I'm just kind of going, because
isn't the funny part that we have press that's saying, "Oh, look at all these imperialist Americans"? I mean, this is a fun thing I find amazing. The people who are like writing journalism for a living, they're like the biggest scaredy cats on the planet. I don't know. You'd think they would be the professionals, but they aren't.
Well, they're professional at hating Trump, and they're only voicing what they want to voice. If they think that it'll bring any sentiment at all to Trump. It's all about timing, isn't it? Like, we've got this thing going. We've got those stupid protests that were going on last weekend. Or was it this weekend? Or it was the weekend before, and then I think they're going to try and do it every weekend or whatever. This stuff is just to me is their, I'm going to use that word again, their recalcitrance is just getting so old, and the rest of us more mature people, and I don't even mean that as an age thing, but all those of us who have got over ourselves a long time ago, just kind of watch and ingest the popcorn.
I'm glad you used the word mature, because I think that's what's going on here. I mean, I think these people, a lot of them, they're basically emotionally, they're children.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right. I think you are right.
Yeah. Oh God, I had a question. Now I can't remember it. What the hell? What's wrong with me? Oh, that's what's wrong with me. Okay. So, I've asked you this a million times, but I'm going to ask again. Where does Trump derangement syndrome come from? Oh, and this is so, like, for example, okay, Bill Maher went to the White House. I don't know if you read about this, and he got on the show on Friday and he talked about it, and he's being vilified by people on the left wing for what he said, which basically is that he thought Trump was very magnanimous and treated him well, even though he insulted the crap out of him. And what it's like, these people won't cut him any slack at all. None.
And the population of those people, Jim, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And what has Zorro said about the power tool reaching the very end of the gasoline? It makes this big, big noise, and then it dies. And so that's you may have asked the question repeatedly, but that is my repeated answer. They are getting smaller and smaller. They are being packed into a corner like rats on a sinking ship, I tell you. And so they are just getting more and more afraid. They're looking around. The people that are bizarre, the trannies that are really the bizarre ones, are getting more and more vocal. They're screaming louder and louder, and the number of people that are paying any mind to them is shrinking, and they can't stand it. Add to that the press that is doing the same thing. The press is so full of itself that it cannot stand the idea that people are no longer listening to them. Morning Joe is bullshit. Keith Olbermann is bullshit. All these people, this crazy woman with the bald head that shows up on TV. These people are all nonsense. And finally, somebody like Bill Maher has said, the guy's putting on a show, and he's very easy to talk to. Yeah, we still disagree, but I'd rather have a beer with him than with Obama and Hillary. Excuse me?
Yeah.
What have we been saying for years? What have we been saying? Trump is the same guy off stage as he is on stage. On stage, he's a little bit more show business. That's it. But in terms of content, the things he says, oh hell yeah, I would much rather talk to a guy that's real, that's going to be deferential. You know what? When Bill Maher described him, do you know who he described almost to a T at the same time?
Who?
Without me, Jason Lewis. Jason Lewis is one of these guys that can just get vein-poppingly angry. When he had his show on KSTP,
Oh yeah.
but you get him alone, and he's like, it's fine, it's fine. So
Yeah.
there's people really do have to understand that Trump is an entertainer in some ways. He's an entertainer who happens to love this country, who happens to have a 156 IQ. And when people talk about him playing 4D chess, going
Oh yeah.
back to the tariffs and stuff, they're
Right.
not kidding around.
No, they aren't.
This guy is smart. This guy is smart.
This is his wheelhouse, And the
Yeah.
other thing is, in a sense, you're talking about his intelligence. In some ways, it reminds me of Reagan because I had to read Reagan's book of letters. I don't know if you remember.
Yes. Brilliant, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I had to read that book to actually come to the conclusion that Reagan was a really smart guy. I never really could tell either way. But the reason is, and Trump shares this with them, they're smart men that are basically anti-intellectuals. They don't like to pontificate or show off their own intelligence. They just like to do shit, And
well, hang on now. when it comes to Trump, okay, fine. No, maybe you've got a point that I didn't consider, but about him not wanting to kind of show off the fact that he is smarter. He does like to say that that he is the smartest guy in the room. I mean, I've even got a recording on my little Trump doll saying I'm like a smart guy. I'm brilliant.
That's true. You're right. And Reagan would never say that. That's absolutely true.
This is true.
And speaking of past presidents, going back to what you were saying about the whole tariff thing, and the stock market, I'm having Murray Sabrin on tomorrow to explain tariffs again.
Excellent.
He's the kind of our resident economist here.
I like that he always follows me.
yeah, because you're on Monday, he is on Tuesday.
I'll get behind Zorro.
But he's always said, and I agree with him on this, about you go back to the Depression, you're talking about the stock market coming back. So what happened, people forget about this, in October 1929, in a 1 week, the stock market dropped 20%, which was that was unfathomable. At the time, it actually kind of still is. But the thing is, and Herbert Hoover, the president at the time, basically didn't know what to do. So the public, they elected FDR, and FDR comes and said, we're gonna do some stuff, and he did do a bunch of stuff, but he actually, what Sabrin has said, and what I have also perceived, but reading about economic history, is actually Roosevelt actually made it worse.
Yes, that is exactly right. Because don't forget, and this is the point that people don't understand about this whole thing with the tariffs, is what Trump is doing with the tariffs has never been done before. And part of this is that he, excuse me just a second here, is that he is absent the socialist policies that were in place when they were putting these tariffs and all this stuff. The conditions that are around now are completely different from the way it ever was when he first when tariffs were tried. So I have a lot of faith in that the guy. Hey, do you think Trump wants to go broke? I don't think so.
No.
So I think he's playing the long game. And in this world where people are so short-sighted and only play the short game, this is an act of brilliance, I think.
Do you think that the press, the way our press is set up about the fact, the sky is falling, do you think it actually encourages people to look short-term, about the that people can't look long-term because of this?
Well, if the press isn't responsible, the social media sure as hell is. You can pick your poison. You can either live by the crap that is said in the media, or you can live by the crap that is said in social media. That's why I say that people who are more mentally mature just completely shut that stuff, shunt it aside. And so, no, I'm not worried. I really am not,
Do you know who Taylor Lorenz is?
Yes, I do. She's that one from the Post that got fired for being really stupid.
Yeah. So she was
Yeah.
on CNN this weekend, and she said another really stupid thing. This Luigi Mangione guy who shot. Now, this is unbelievable. I'm starting to, my first reaction is to laugh too, but the more I think about this and the more I read it,
Yeah.
this is really, we're bordering on evil here. There's a whole bunch of women,
Yeah.
and I hate to say it, they're women, straight women, who've thrown themselves at this guy, and he's really a bald-faced murderer.
No, he's horrible. But you realize though, Jim, this is not unusual. This happens all the time. It happened with Osama freaking bin Laden. People were, because these guys they're always kind of good looking.
Yeah.
And bin Laden, take away everything else, but you look at him, he actually was a pretty good looking guy.
Yeah, he was.
And this fellow is too. And so these women, these ones that are kind of remaining as I don't even know what category you would put them in, but these ones that find the bad boys attractive they're the ones that, for me, are more evil than the evil itself.
Yeah.
Because they go past where the evil is, accept it, and just say, "Oh, he's not that bad." And this is not a good thing. But sadly, it's not a new thing either.
I understand why 16-year-old girls think this way, but I don't understand why 40-year-old women do. That's the part.
Because they're still 16-year-old girls. Think about these morons that get interviewed and have no idea why they spent part of a Saturday protesting something that they had no idea. Well, part of them, of course, are the ones that get paid. And there's a wonderful clip by this woman who decided, okay, I'm going to go protest, but I'm going to go see if I can get paid for it.
Right.
And she went all the way down about how it all went down. And I'll tell you, no, mature. This is why I say there's a difference between mental maturity and maturity by just age. So we've got a lot of people who are very, very young.
Don, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I just made a pregnant pause.
All right, okay. Actually, the screen froze for a second too, so I thought
okay,
I lost you there for
All
a second. Yeah, well, okay. So in this, let me see. I gotta get my dates right here. When the Tea Party movement raised its ugly head, what was that, about 2012? I can't.
Well, that was that. No, it was earlier. It was just like right after Obama got elected.
2009, 2010. Okay, right.
Yeah, it was after the first run. Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember this. When that happened, the people at CNN thought this whole the Tea Party movement was actually set up. They thought it was an organized thing, and it wasn't. It was a spontaneous thing. Whereas conversely, everybody who sees these protests, or a lot of people who see these protests now, think they're spontaneous, and it's the exact opposite. They're actually planned. And so I'm looking back at the Tea Party thing. Did they think the Tea Party thing was planned because they planned stuff?
Well, there is a certain amount of projection, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think that's, but I guess both sides are pretty good at projection when the mood suits them. But I got to tell you, it's easy to talk about both sides this, both sides that, but I am really resigning to the fact that the majority of these people who espouse themselves as being Democrat, they're not smart people. They really aren't smart. It's not to say we're the side of brainiacs, but I tell you, when it comes to just general discourse, being able to articulate the things that bother you about a candidate, bother you about a policy, I am trusting more people on the right than I am the folks on the left. It just doesn't. The things they say are so shallow, And again, I will say that we on the right can get into some pretty shallow stuff as well. But I think that the reasonable people on the right are increasing, and the reasonable people on the left are decreasing. So the next, I don't know what the hell just happened here, but
Yeah,
the next, that's okay. But the next election ought to be a really interesting one.
well, God in heaven, they're not going to run Kamala again, are they?
No, they're thinking about Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, or he's thinking of himself.
Right. So another person, and I don't have anything against Stephen A. Smith, although a friend, not a friend, one of my relatives is a basketball coach, and I was talking about this, and I said, well, yeah, Stephen A. Smith's primary talent is drawing attention to Stephen A. Smith, and my relative said absolutely, positively correct. He said you could not be more correct than that. I mean, I know it's like this guy. Okay, he's a good talker. That's fine, and we're maybe good talkers, but that doesn't mean I should be president.
Right. Stephen A. Smith, I think, in his heart of hearts, prides himself on being able to do the black preacher thing. He has exactly that kind of pattern that when he wants to make a point, he does it.
Oh, that was good.
It doesn't matter that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. How can that make any kind of sense at all? But it does, because I am Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a side excursion here too. Do you listen to much sports talk?
Nope.
Because I gotta admit I'm just for professional reasons I do, and it fascinates me because my God, there's a lot of people talking about stuff that really doesn't matter.
No,
I don't know if we're doing that. I don't know. I'd like to think maybe we aren't, or a little less. I have no idea. But I like Pat McAfee. You ever watch him? Or
no.
Yeah, well, he's really popular among the young. I will say the young men. And I guess there's a certain bro culture going on there. But other than that, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know.
Well, look, as long as they keep blindly supporting Trump, I don't mind.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Okay, so now I had another question. Now I forgot it because I'm old and I'm feeble. It's terrible.
It's so sad for me to watch this just happen right in front of me. I
know.
Can't do anything. I want to help.
Yeah. No, it's not going to be possible.
Okay.
Okay. So all right, I got off the thing on the sports talk thing there. Oh, we were talking about tail ends. So
yeah.
All right. So now this is the part I don't understand. Why is this? Well, this woman isn't employed right now, but still they're trotting around on cable television. How did this woman ever even get away with being employed for so? I don't understand. She's stupid.
When did she get hired?
Oh, she worked at the Washington Post, I think, for like 10 years.
Okay, 10 years is nothing. 10 years is nothing in terms of the sociological changes that have been going on. I mean, how long have people been hired merely because of their race, gender, or sex? Excuse me, race or sex. So you have to look at that. So,
yeah.
And listen, don't forget this, is that some people give really great interviews.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, right. I mean, I don't know anything about anything, but I could give a great interview because I can BS really well. That's why I'm doing this thing. Once in a while, I'll say something that's like mildly interesting, but I can give a really great interview on. In fact, I've always wanted to like star on some show, some radio show where you call up. And let's say that you show up on a home garden show and somebody calls up and I have to answer the questions, even though I know nothing about home gardening, but just make shit up, about plumbing, about hair restoration.
You want me to arrange for this?
Yeah.
Oh man, no,
I can answer any question. I'm not going to guarantee it's right. I'm just saying I can answer it.
You were talking about the woman, the black bald-headed woman, and this is terrible now. I mean, I'm going to make a confession here. In the last 10 years or so, when I see a woman of color on television, I assume they're a DEI hire, which is I'm not going to use the R word here, but that's what that is. And I never thought that way before, Don. I never did.
But there are a lot of things that we think now that weren't generated by our side. They were foisted on us, and you do enough foisting, and people start to get irritated.
Yeah.
People start to feel like, people don't like to be forced. They don't like to feel like their thoughts are constantly under review. Nobody likes to feel that way. I don't care who you are. So I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to sound like I'm kidding, but I'm actually not. I have to blame my white friends, because they're the ones who kind of, while all this stuff was going on, they looked at their shoes and they did not stand up and say. They were more afraid of being called some sort of name. They were afraid of being called racist or something else, and so they didn't stand up for themselves. And here's another thing. Another thing that's always bothered me about my white friends is how self-effacing they are. Now, there's a certain amount of humility that is good for the soul, but the way people self-denigrate, allow themselves to be put down. There's a certain amount of breaking balls. It's okay, right? Okay, I'll tease you, you tease me, whatever. We're just breaking balls. But then there's a certain point where it reaches something that's like, hey, look, back off. That's enough of that, all right? And unfortunately, we are here now because not enough white people said, okay, that's enough. No more. So now what has happened? Now we're at a point where the seething has now turned into boiling, and it's not just going to boil over, it's going to explode, where that didn't have to happen if people had just been honest with each other, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when all this stuff started. And then when Floyd happened, oh my God, it's just like there wasn't anything that you couldn't blame white people over.
Right.
So
well,
yeah, there's so much to say about it.
You travel a lot. I don't know if you've been to Britain lately. I haven't been there in quite a few years, but
a few years ago, and I was kind of shocked at what I saw.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up, is because that, in some ways, they've let so many people into that country, and unlike, and you and I are not only almost exact same age, literally almost to the month. We're both first generation Americans, and all four of our parents came here. And I've said this, and I'm the last time we talked about it, I think you agreed about the fact that the difference between now and then was when my parents came here. My father wanted nothing more than to be an American. They acclimated to the system. Now we have people, not just in the United States, but even more in Europe, who are moving to other countries and basically want to turn the countries into the places they came from.
You want to know something? When I was in junior high school, they used to call me Whitey. You know why? Because I dared to speak and spell properly. Yeah. And that was one of those things where fortunately it didn't last too long, but even like the white kids were calling me Whitey. Like, what the hell? Are you kidding me? Really? Because I don't speak the way you think I should speak? And I said that. I said, fine. If being white means that I try to excel at school and doing what I want and speak well, then to hell with you.
Well, that's the problem. People are your peers equated being white with basically being educated.
Yeah, well, that's what Joe Biden did. That's what Joe Biden said. He said that what is it? Black and poor kids have the same chance of being as good at school as white kids, or some. I forgot what exactly he said, but he basically said the same racist thing, and nobody called him on it except for us on the right.
Yeah, nobody ever called him on anything. He is, by his statements, a very racist man. I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Years ago, I had a business partner, and he was an African American man, and he also talked about the fact that when he went to school, and he grew up poor in the South, but his mother insisted that he speak proper English.
Damn straight. That's right. And you listen to the blacks from that period, and their English is accented. Sure, fine, but it's Southern accented. It's not urban accented. It's not this garbage. Did you see the interview that this white girl was doing with a black artist, and she called her. She was saying all the things she did, and she called her a musician. This girl was so stupid. The black artist was so stupid that she didn't know what the term musician meant.
Oh God!
And she thought, no, I'll have to send you that video. It's incredible. And she starts saying, she thought that she was saying something like magician. It was absolutely mind-boggling.
Well, you've spent a lot of years like me in the entertainment business previously, and my thing right now is I'm assuming you're aware of this. Virtually no major pop star now plays an instrument. I mean, they don't.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know if you knew, I don't know if you knew that. It's really true. I can't name a single one.
Didn't even like some really great guitarist or whatever.
Yeah, right. It's not right. Even you go back 20 or 30 years, you had some really, really great guitarists.
They're all singers. Good Lord, I had not noticed that.
Right, and not only that, there's singers that don't play anything. I mean, there's some singers that play some, even screw around on a keyboard or something, but no, they don't play anything. Yeah,
I hadn't noticed
and then
that.
people wonder why the pop music's so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what.
See, and Prince was one of those last guys. Prince was amazing. That guy. I saw after he died. I saw a lot of things that he did that I just was not aware of. He was a brilliant magician. He was a brilliant musician, and really, just I don't think he got the props for his real talent.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say he's one of the very few musical geniuses that ever worked in pop music.
That's certainly a point that you could argue easily.
Yeah, right. I know, but I don't know a single person on the scene now that. Not just even encompasses that, but even can play anything. And so I'm on YouTube, and I don't know how the YouTube algorithm got this in its head, but I keep getting fed videos of Dua Lupe, this young woman, Hispanic woman. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know who it is.
Well, she's young and cute. She sings and she dances. That's an amazing thing. She's actually not a very good dancer.
But I bet she's hot, right?
Yeah, she's good at shaking her booty. Yeah. She's really good at that. And I don't know how they figured out I wanted to look at this. And I'm actually being serious here. I'm not that particularly interested, but the damn algorithm keeps pushing it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, my battery is running low.
That's all right.
Can I have a second to tell you a really cute joke that I heard the other day? So this politician dies, and at his death he's met by St. Peter, and he says, "Oh, hi, I'm ready to go into heaven." He said, "No, not so fast." He says, "You get to choose between heaven and hell." And he says, "Are you serious?" He says, "Yeah, you have to spend 24 hours in each place. So you where do you want to start?" And he says, "Okay, fine, let's get it over with. I'll go to hell," says the politician. So he goes down there, and here's this beautiful green field, and it's a golf course. And then he goes and he sees the clubhouse, and there are all of his buddies that have passed on, and they're having a great time. And so he spends the 24 hours with him, just having an absolute ball. And so he goes back, takes the elevator back up, and St. Peter says, "Okay, here's heaven." And so he goes around, and it's a beautiful feeling, and he's kind of going hopping from cloud to cloud, just enjoying the people that are there. It's just delightful. And then so St. Peter says, "Well, what do you choose?" I said, "Well, I didn't think I'd say this, but I think I'm going to choose heaven. All my friends are there, and they were just having the greatest time singing and dancing and all that. So I'll just go." So he takes the elevator down. When the doors open, it's just this desolate field, and everything's horrible. His friends are all in rags, and they're picking up garbage that's coming out of the sky, and that's their endless job. And he sees the devil, and the devil says, "Hey, what's the matter?" And he says, "Well, this isn't like it was. What happened to the big party and all the fun and all the stuff we were talking about?" It says, "Oh, well, they were campaigning yesterday. Today you voted."
Oh my God. I wasn't expecting that. That's a great thing about humor. Surprise.
I know.
Hey, Dan.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun, Jim.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon, okay? Take care.
Be well.
Hi, all. I want to talk to you about Conk News. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but if you're a news junkie, you should try this out. Conk News is a news aggregator. Now, there are plenty of news aggregators on the web, but Conk News is different than all the rest, and here's how. Most other news aggregators will lump the top stories from each news source under that news source. The top 10 stories, like, for example, from Fox News, Breitbart, the New York Post, etc. What Conk News does is it sends its servers out onto the web to over 75 different news sources every 3 hours. And yes, this is an automated process, but in this case, that's actually a good thing. And collects the latest stories from said 75 sources and then lays them out on its own front page in the order they were posted, regardless of the source. So you see the latest stories at the top of the front page, regardless of where they're from. And this is all free to you. You don't need to log in. You don't need to subscribe, register, nothing. It's completely free. All you have to do is go to conk.com to check it out. That's conk.com, 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 Conk News. Our thanks to Don Zorro. Always good time having her around. Very engaging conversationalist. I think you guys like him too because he always draws a good crowd here. His shows, the shows he's on, always very well watched. So I appreciate that too. Thank you. This is part 2 of Jim Peters Tonight. I am Jim Peters. Now you can call in now. The phone lines are open. 325-225-5546 or send me a text message. 408-458-5088. Otherwise, I will prattle on incessantly. So if you want me to shut up, call me. And you can talk. And yeah, you can. That's the idea. See? Also, open conversation, open topics. Don't care what you want to talk about. You want to talk about what you had for dinner? That's fine. We can do that. Believe me, I'm interested, believe it or not. I know that probably doesn't surprise you, but okay, so we talked about this at the top of the interview with Don, and we like to talk about space news here and the UFO stuff and all this sort of crazy paranormal crap. But the 6 women went into space this morning on the Blue Origin rocket. The flight was less than 11 minutes. It's not orbit, folks. They go straight up 62 miles and they come straight back down. So now the thing is, first of all, there's quite a few humorous articles written about this in the inner tube press this morning, and I my 2 favorite were by 2 female columnists, Beige Wellborn at Hot Air and Sasha Stone at Substack. And Beige, I'm going to read you what she said here today. She said, quote, normally taking some women in skin tight spandex pretending they're astronauts going into space on a rocket ship would make for a laughably entertaining movie, maybe shades of Galaxy Quest if any of the chicas were as adept at humor as Sigourney Weaver. And then she goes on and says, the uniforms, the delightful Miss Sanchez, Lauren Sanchez designed their uniforms. That the delightful Miss Sanchez design were certainly first-rate hoochie. And so, Sasha Stone was saying, so the deal is, okay, so you're the richest man in the world, and what do you get your fiance as a engagement present? Well, you send her to space. And she's got a point here. You go back about 120 years ago at the dawn of the 20th century, around the 1900s or 1890s, that was basically kind of the Gilded Age. And we have about as much money floating around now as we did then. It's kind of obscene. You have people with obscene amounts of money, and they've run out of stuff to buy. And if you're Jeff Bezos, like, what do you get her? Well, I'll give you a trip up to space. That sounds good, right? Now, the really funny part to me, I don't know if you saw any of this, the video. They're loading up the capsule. They're actually taking the elevator up to the capsule to actually get in. And there's 6 women here. You got Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, Gail King, and 3 other women I've never heard of. One of them is an actual astronaut. I guess you got to have somebody on board to do something. I don't know. Although there's nothing to do. These are tourist shots. Is this the 11th one or something like that? I can't remember. But at any rate, my point is as they're getting into the capsule, 5 of them are absolutely giddy, and Gail King, bless her heart, she's freaking terrified. You can see it on her face. She's scared shitless, and I'm laughing. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's like, but I guess once they got up there, they had a good time. So it's about 5 minutes of weightlessness, then you come back down, you know, and everybody says it was a life altering experience. Blah 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 blah. But I mean, Sasha Stone has a point. If you're the richest guy in the world, is that what you get your fiance as an engagement gift? I'll send you out up into space, honey. That sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. People are going to be writing about this forever. And the other thing both these women said in their columns is about the fact that this is way overblown. First of all, as Beige pointed out, these women, they're like astronauts. They didn't do anything. It's a tourist run. You might as well put them in a taxi cab. It's like there's absolutely all they had to do is go along for the ride. There's no astronauting involved. And yeah, people it's like it's a day for womanhood and female empowerment. No, it isn't. No, you went for a ride, ladies. That's what you did. So no, my doctor, the surgeon, she's actually like that's female empowerment. She's opening up people twice a day. No, that's female empowerment. Going on a ride on a space capsule is not. That isn't. And it's kind of you stop and think about it. It's like it's kind of stupid that people are making it that way too. I mean, real female accomplishment is not really, as far as the popular culture is concerned, is not really recognized. You have scientists, you have my sister-in-law, my wife's sister is a very famous scientist, and she's done a lot of stuff. And also she looks incredibly good doing it too. I should tell you that, and I'm not exaggerating here because she's my relative. It's like she kind of looks like Cher, and she used to go to these conferences over in Europe, all over the world. She would give speeches, and deliberately did it in the shortest black leather miniskirt she could find. It's like okay, because the scientists have nothing better to think about. I guess I don't know. And who am I talking about? I'm thinking about it too. So okay, going on. In more science news, you know what ChatGPT is, right? You probably use it. I mean, I use AI more and more in my work all the time. I'm asking all sorts of questions. And you stop and think about this. Okay, if it was just like one subject, you could say, oh, you could probably get together a pretty good database of answers. But we ask these things everything. I do. I can't. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm always asking, like who was Arnold Ziffel the pig on the Green Acres? I actually did ask a Copilot that the other day because we were talking. I don't know if you saw it. I'm talking to Don. I don't know what it is. The last few days I've been thinking about Green Acres. I have no idea why. Probably because I have too much time on my hands. Anyway, I've talked about this on the show before. There's something called the Turing test. So the Turing test came out in the 1960s. And what it is, it's a test where you are sitting at a keyboard or a screen and you're texting back and forth to an entity. And the idea is that if you can't tell that entity is a computer and you think it's a person, that the computer has passed the Turing test. The Turing test was that when the computer can converse to the point where humans can't tell it's a computer, you've reached a milestone. Now, not only did ChatGPT do this, and I don't know if if you go back on my friend the late Jazz Shaw passed away in October. He was on the show many times, and we talked about this all the time because he was big into the AI before most people were. And we always said that the AI ChatGPT can pass the Turing test in spades, but here's a new twist on it. So they did what they called the three-way Turing test. So the thing is, so you're sitting at a keyboard and a screen, and you are talking to ChatGPT and a real person on two screens simultaneously, right? Believe it or not, in the latest survey they did, double-blind, randomized, 73% of people thought ChatGPT was the person and not the other way around. In other words, they were wrong. 73%. So not only did ChatGPT passed a Turing test, it passed it in flying colors. It convinced people that it was more real than a real person. Okie dokie. And speaking of that, Disney Research, believe it or not, that's a thing. That's a division of the Walt Disney Company. Disney Research, they have built a robot now that they say can exhibit human emotions by studying the emotional cues of the person it's talking to. And they said this little robot, it's a tiny, I should have pictures. I'm sorry. I didn't. This robot only stands about like 2-3 feet tall. It's very short. But the robot, and it looks a little bit like Wall-E. Remember that movie years ago? The robot will learn by observing the person that's talking to, and not only that, it keeps that. So it's not just like at the moment. It will file into its memory database everything it learns from every person it talks to, and the robot ends up being amazingly lifelike, supposedly. Yeah, that's all we need. You know, the world's going to go to hell, folks, and we're just along for the ride. All right, so now the next thing that came on in the news today, speaking of UFOs and going up into space, this is from February of 23, so about 2 years ago. This has just made the news now, though, and I don't know if that's because it was just declassified or what the deal is. So you remember the Tic Tac Nimitz incident of 2004 that made the New York Times in 2017, right? Okay, so in February 23, basically, and what is the name? This is aboard the USS Jackson, but it's almost in the exact same spot off the coast of San Diego where the original Nimitz incident occurred. Not only did they see the four Tic Tac objects, one of them came out of the water, and then they all flew away in coordinated. They were in what's the word I'm looking for? Pattern. They're flying in synchronized. They're flying in formation. They were flying in formation, so it's obvious they're communicating with each other. Okay, that's fine. So, I get back to this thing that Christopher Mellon said a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, when he wrote a piece. I can't remember what I'm pulling this out of my butt, folks. I'm sorry. I can't remember what publication it was in, but he said, no one in Washington wants to say the A word, and the A word is aliens. Yeah, and that's right. Nobody wants to say it. Like, okay, so who do you think's flying these things? First of all, we know, the Navy itself has said definitively that these are real objects. They're real flying machines. They're flying around. All those pilots and stuff like that, they're watching real stuff. All right, that's fine. So, okay, so if they're real flying machines, who's building them? Is it us? Maybe. I'll get to that in a second. Is it the Russians? Absolutely not. The Russians don't have crap. They don't have the money, and they don't have the brain power. The Chinese have the money, but they have the brain power, but they can't originate anything. This is the big thing with the tariffs right now. Now we're going to have Murray Sabrin on tomorrow talking about all this stuff because he's an expert at this tariff thing. But the problem that everybody's pissed off about, and you listen to Kevin Leary online, or he's talking about the fact that the tariff to China should be 400% because all they do is steal from us, and that's true. They have no original ideas, and it's partly because of the way their culture is set up. They can't think of stuff. They're great at executing. As a matter of fact, the terrible thing is they stole our plans for hypersonic missiles. They stole them, and then they built the missile before we did. Now, what the hell? I mean, this shows the incompetence of the American government, doesn't it? I mean, they stole our plans. We came up with the whole thing. They stole them by hacking into a computer. Then they ended up building the missiles before we did. And this is crazy, but that's what happened. And they're very good at that. They're extremely good at executing, probably better than us, but they can't think of anything. So do I think the Chinese built these things? No, I don't. No. Now getting back to the U.S. Did the U.S. build them? not only possibly, but probably, I'd say. But here's the deal with that. If we built that technology, we did it because we have reverse engineered crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft that did not come out of the ether, or somebody's mind, or actually even somebody's butt. There's been you can go back maybe about 500 years. There's been only two things in science that have been completely non-evolutionary. In other words, they did not spring from something else. The theory of relativity, Einstein, and alternating current, Tesla. That's it. Those two things sprung out of nowhere. Both those guys' heads, you know. I don't know about Einstein, but Tesla said straight up, he said, "I got the idea for this in a dream." And it makes and if you know anything about physics, you can kind of understand how somebody dreaming around and let their mind wander could come up with relativity. Alternating current doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't. So you're telling me that, and this is you stick your fingers in the socket in your house and you'll find out what I'm talking about the fact that, okay, the problem with electricity in the 1880s when Edison first came up with this, that direct current can only be transmitted about 3 miles before it starts to fade. Literally, it loses power, it dissipates. And so, well, that's tough. Well, that means you have to be within 3 miles of a power station or a transformer or something like that. Okay. So Tesla comes up with this thing. He says, well, if we reverse the polarity, 30 or 40 or 50, 60 times a second, it will travel a lot farther. Well, why? I mean, I'm fairly savvy with this stuff. I still don't understand exactly why it works. I understand how it works. I don't understand why it works. I don't. So those are the only two things that humans have come up with in the last maybe 400 or 500 years that were completely out of the clear blue. So you're going to tell me that we not only figured out anti-gravity and now the rumors have been that the military supposedly the military discovered anti-gravity in 1950 or figured it out. And I don't know if that's I don't know. I have a hard time believing that, actually. I do. I do know this, though. I've talked about this on this show before. In 1981, and you can go down to Barnes and Noble and actually look this up. They published Ronald Reagan's presidential diaries. These are the official diaries he kept as president of the United States. They're published there in a book, and you can go read it. And I can't remember the date, the exact day, but it's from October 1981. So he'd been president about 9-10 months. And he says in the diary entry, he says, I had a meeting with the brass of the Air Force or about our new flying spacecraft. And he says, we now have a spacecraft that can hold 300 people. Now, at that time, the biggest spacecraft ever launched that the public knew about was Skylab, which held 8 people. So what exactly is he talking about? Now supposedly these are like what's the nomenclature used in the UFO community for this. It was the TR-3B. That was the name of the spacecraft that the Army or the Air Force or NASA or somebody apparently launched that ran off anti-gravity. It's the triangular spacecraft people see all over the world. Supposedly, some or all of these are ours, supposedly. And so this was, and I suppose, according to the backstory on this, like he wrote this in 81, that they launched these things in 1980. Now, the reason I have a hard time believing this is because I don't know if if you can go back that far. I can. We didn't have computing power worth shit in 1980. I mean, we didn't, nothing. I mean, there's that famous scene out of the movie. Oh God, the woman. Oh, about the figures, about the women who work for NASA, about the fact that they had a room with a computer that had 2 megabytes of memory in it. Well, I got 2 megabytes in my tiny little finger here now. I mean, that was cutting edge. We didn't have any computing power. We went to the moon with basically a calculator, an electronic calculator on the Apollo spacecraft. There was They planned the whole mission with slide rules. So I have a very hard. I don't think you could fly. And who was I talking to? I had on the show. We had a conversation about this. I don't think you could fly an anti-gravity spacecraft without any serious computing power. I don't think you could, just because of the way the whole damn thing would work. It's beyond the control of a person or humans. That's what I think anyway. I mean, I don't know if you know, I've been wrong before. I don't know if you noticed that. I have, but I can't see it. I don't know. But it's like I said, you can read it in his diary. I've seen it. I've read it. It's in there. You know, so I don't know what's going on. And so my thing is, I think that these things might very well be U.S. based by us, but we have them because we were reverse engineered stuff. That did not come out of somebody's ass. That didn't. And I mean the idea, not the tic tac. I don't mean that. All right. So, okay. So now there's another thing that made the news this week too in the UFO world, and that is there's a document that's been declassified off the CIA website. This is kind of interesting. This document, and actually, here's the thing: the document itself is not a CIA memo or not. It's an article that was in a Ukrainian newspaper in what year was it? I think it ran in 2000. I don't have it here. I think it ran in 2003, but it was just kind of like discovered or it was just declassified. So this gets really murky. It's on the CIA website. It's in the CIA's declassified materials, but it isn't something they generated. Okay, you got that? It's a newspaper article. The newspaper article is about the fact that, and I think it's a Ukrainian newspaper. That is about the newspaper article is about the fact that a bunch of Soviet soldiers, so yeah, you're talking about the Soviet Union. So this must go. All right, I know I've got my dates confused. But anyway, that's the thing. And this is about the Soviet Union, not Russia, which means that this had to happen pre 1993. Okay, so supposedly they were accosted by a couple UFOs, the traditional standard flying discs, and they actually took a portable rocket launcher to one of them and shot it out of the sky, and it crashed. And supposedly, what happened was about a half a dozen little gray beings came out of the crashed spacecraft, and there's a party of about 2 dozen soldiers, and turned all of them. Basically, what turned out after they froze them. They turned them into basically statues. And 2 people were spared. 2 soldiers were spared because they were out of the line of sight of this device they used to do this, which basically like shot out like a laser like or spotlight light beam. And when they analyzed these dead, of course, the soldiers are not dead. They analyzed them. They said that it was basically that it was the compound was basically limestone. It literally turned them into stone. That's what the story says. And who knows if this is true or not? But it was declassified off the CIA website. It was. So that made the news today. It came from the Foreign Broadcast Information Service, which is an open source information service that uses newspapers and distributes them to intelligence agencies where they might be of interest. So that's why the CIA had it. But and then okay, all right. So you can still call me up, 325-225-5546. The last thing I want to talk about here, speaking of UFOs, and I've talked about this before, but I think this needs to be kind of emphasized. These spherical UFOs that have been seen all over the world, and so they're most of the ones people see are about the size of a bowling ball, or maybe a little bigger, about the size of a basketball. They're completely metallic. They're shiny metallic, and they're flying around all over nilly willy. Most people say they look like they're intelligently controlled. They do not look like balloons. They're flying basically wherever they want to, and this is being reported everywhere. I have a report here from a guy, a mechanic in Mexico, who saw one. there was a video online on YouTube about a guy who tracked one. I can't remember off the top of my head where it was where this happened, but he said he basically tracked it. It landed in a field, and he actually went and approached it with his camera. Now, the problem with all this stuff, and I talking to Tim Conway about this on the show? I can't remember, but there's a problem now, and that is we've gotten so good at faking video that you can't that it's basically useless as evidence anymore. You don't. We have no idea where this stuff comes from. AI is so. I mean, I know that if you analyze it, if you take go, pixel analyze it, and people know what they're looking for. I know they can tell the difference between a real and a fake video, but the vast majority of people can't do that. I only know from video production, from being involved in movie making, I can tell when something more or less when something is fake and when something isn't. Although I've been fooled, and I'll get to that in a minute. But at this point, you can't really tell these videos are. I watched this thing on YouTube about the fact that clearest UFO footage ever, and I'm watching it, and it's pretty damn clear. It's so clear, I don't know if I believe it. I basically don't. I subscribe to what Stan Friedman called the 95% threshold, and that is when it comes to UFOs, 95% of everything reported is either misidentified or hoaxed, one or the other. 95%. I totally think that's true. It's just bad information. Now the problem with that though is that the 5% that isn't hoaxed or isn't misidentified, that's a lot of stuff. You gotta, there's the report, and reports for UFOs are going up and up and up every year now because every person on the planet now has a camera in their pocket. So people see this stuff, they record it. Now, I don't know. I do think that basically, from what I can tell, the judgment call here, more and more people are reporting stuff because more and more people are seeing it. I don't think that it's just the reports are getting bigger, but I think there's more stuff for people to actually see. I think more stuff's actually happening. So, but these balls, they've been flying around everywhere. There's a guy in England named Patrick Jackson. He wrote a book called Quantum Paranormal, and you can buy it on Amazon. I bought it and I read it. He's got a very interesting theory. He's an IT specialist by training. And he came to the conclusion by analyzing just not only these reports, but actually self-reports. He actually figured out, and let me get to this too before we close tonight too. He figured out how to basically summon these things because he figured out that they're all networked together, all worldwide. And he said, if he figured out the network protocol, and he can summon them at will. And so his theory is that they're basically their surveillance and their network worldwide is the whole world. All these orbs, these spheres are everywhere, and they're all networked together. And I don't know, I can't remember how he figured this out too. But he said, this is what I think this was his opinion. I don't think he had any actual evidence of this. He said it appears that the entities running this network are not the entities that built it. He said that because he said there's some bugs in it, which he ended up finding and exploiting, which is one of the reasons he could summon these things. And he said they haven't been fixed in a long time. And he thinks that's because the entities who run this network or are using it don't actually know how to fix it. In other words, they're running it, but they don't actually know how it works. That's what he thinks. So his theory is that some extraterrestrial entity came here and installed this or put it on the planet, and they left, and these other people stumbled into it. I call them people. They're people. Screw it. That's the problem. They're people. They stumbled into this network and took it over. That's what he thinks. Because he said, there are some glaring bugs in it, but they don't care, and nobody, so his thinking is that these things are designed to create the appearance of paranormal activity to scare people away from them because they're highly radioactive, and if humans get too close to them, you could get poisoned or killed. That's his theory. So in other words, they're trying to collect information and they're trying not to hurt humans, but they know that these devices will hurt humans. They know that. So they said that all this weird stuff. He thinks that a lot of paranormal houses or buildings, the thing is these orbs are basically hiding in them or residing in them, and so they're programmed to create paranormal phenomena to keep people from away from them, basically to scare the crap out of people and keep them away. And that's an interesting theory, you know. So I was talking about people. If I we have to come to terms with them here, folks. You have to understand this. And I know this is the part where you're watching the show and you think I'm nuts, and I don't really, I really don't care at this point. I don't care at all. The extraterrestrials are coming here. You just get used to it. It's been, I don't know how long it's been going on. There's people who say thousands of years. That may or may not be true. Matter of fact, I don't know a lot other than the fact that I know they're coming here. There's too much evidence. There's just too much freaking evidence. All these pictures. I can talk about all these pictures of these orbs, all this stuff, all this ridiculous video evidence, all this stuff. Like I said, even if we go into the assumption that 95% of it is bogus, and that's probably a good assumption to make, the 5% that's left is so voluminous, it's nuts. It's crazy. So I don't know if we're being invaded, because I would like to think my personal opinion is that if these entities want to quote unquote take over Earth, they could probably do it in like 15 minutes. I don't think that I know their technology is so far ahead of ours. I don't think that wouldn't stand a chance. So in that sense, I assume they're either benevolent or neutral. Although there's another thing that's going on too, and this is, and I talked to Jazz Shaw about this. Him and I were talking about this regularly. He heard this firsthand from people in the Pentagon, and that was a one thing I loved him as a person, as a human, uh, but still as a contact for this, it was great because I heard stuff about that was going on in the Pentagon. Basically, I heard it secondhand because he would hear it firsthand. And he said, and I've heard this too, uh, that there's a huge the struggle in the Pentagon is twofold. Whether they tell the public about this or not, they've never officially acknowledged it. Matter of fact, even today, every single time one of these things comes out of the CIA, like this thing on the CIA website, once again, somebody from the Navy gets on I think her name is Susan Goff. She's the official spokesperson for the UFO stuff, and says we have absolutely no evidence that extraterrestrials exist. And yeah, okay, they don't, or say that's what they're going to say, right? Okay, so fine, all right, but the twofold problem is not only is the question is whether they should tell us or not. The other problem is some people in the Pentagon and the military community think these entities are evil. Matter of fact, is the word that's been used is demonic. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I never had a chance to ask Jazz this. Jazz passed away very suddenly. Uh, yeah, I think it was October 30th of last year, and he was on the show. I think it was last appearance was August 30th. So 2 months later, he passed away, and I had talked to him. I think he was still up and about, even a week before he passed away. He was still working, so he died very suddenly. Uh, but it's occurred to me that Heath was talking about this. People think, and the implication is that there's a religious aspect to this. But I stopped to think about this. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that implication, or maybe the inferent thing I'm inferring, or the other people inferring, is wrong. And that's the part that people want to poo poo. People say, well, they're Christians and they don't want to deal with this on a rational level. But no, maybe the thing is, maybe they're not like demonic in the sense that they're the devil. Maybe they're just like benevolent, evil. I mean, shit, worse things have happened. I mean, we had the Nazis, I mean, there's no reason to think that just because you have advanced technology that you're going to be wonderfully good. That's an assumption you don't necessarily want to make. So, but like I said, once again, I assume at that level, if you want to destroy the Earth is destroyed, and we wouldn't be talking to each other right now. And yeah, we can maybe get into the fact that, yeah, this is all a big giant computer simulation. but and maybe it is. I don't know. This is, like I said, there's so much stuff going on. I mean, we don't know. First of all, we don't know shit. We don't know shit about anything. We don't know physics. We don't even know what gravity is, you know, or at least publicly. Like I said, supposedly the military's figured it out, but publicly we don't know. Our public scientists don't know. We don't know what gravity is, you know. I read an article about him. I was trying to have this guy on the show about the fact that he thinks that comets flying around, space, the solar system, that they might be sentient, and because they exhibit biological properties. And it was a very, very long article, and I plowed through it. But I have to say, reading the article, he's got a point. I don't know if it's true or not, but yeah, there's a valid point to be made there. You know, so like I said, I don't know much, but I do know this. We're being visited for sure. I'm positive of that. So it's like I don't understand why, and people are still trying to come up with quote unquote rational explanations why all this stuff's happening. Here's the most rational explanation: Occam's razor. We're being visited by extraterrestrials. That's the most obvious one, and I guess people can't wrap their minds around that because of it makes us look small or whatever. You can come up with all sorts of psychological reasons, but I know there's a certain amount of the public that does not want to embrace not only this idea, this concept. They don't want to go there. They don't want to admit this is happening, but it's happening. So I don't know if we're ever gonna, I'm 6 months away from 70 years old. I don't know if I'm ever gonna find out in my lifetime. I don't know. I don't know if the president's ever going to stand up in the press room and say, "Yeah, we've confirmed that the ETs are here." I don't know if that's going to happen. I do think though, if anybody would do it, it would be Trump, just because he'd like to go down in history as being the guy who did it. That's what I think. And people have said that supposedly the people in the UFO community have high hopes that this administration will engage in what they call disclosure, that they will do this. And people have the buzz has been going on that yeah, Trump is going to do this before he leaves office. I don't know if that's true either. I don't know. You know, like I said, I know only one thing: the extraterrestrials are here. And with that, I'm going to leave you for the evening. Okay. Tomorrow night, Murray Sabrin, economist extraordinaire, professor emeritus at Ramapo College. Matter of fact, I think it's called the Murray Sabrin Center there for economics. They named their one a part of their business school after him. So he's going to come on. He's going to tell us about tariffs, about the ins and outs, and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, if you heard Don before, and once again, thanks for Don for coming on. Seriously, don't panic. Christ, it's like you just like being. It's just stupid. Do not panic. Okay, you panic, you lose your sense. And I guess I'm coming full circle here. I guess that's true with this whole thing with the ETs too. People panic. Oh my God. It's like, they could kill us. Yeah, they could. Well, but they haven't yet. At least I think I'm still here talking to you. I'm not sure. Anyway, Murray's coming on tomorrow night. We're taking Wednesday off, and Jonathan Lockwood, military and space historian, he's coming on Thursday. We're going to talk to him. Looking forward to that. I want to thank you folks for watching. I really appreciate it. You do not know how much. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. And good night to you, wherever you are. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Take care.